The wind came down from the high peaks like a living thing, cold and sharp enough to sting the skin. Snow drifted through the spruce and pine, settling on the worn leather of a man's coat as he stood alone in a valley that seemed to stretch into forever. It was the winter of 1825, deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, and Jedediah Boone had been on his own for nearly 3 weeks. His breath steamed in the morning air as he adjusted the strap of his powder horn and studied the tracks before him, faint impressions pressed into the thin crust of ice near the riverbank. Somewhere ahead, elk had passed through. Somewhere ahead lay his next meal, his next trade, his next chance at survival. Boone was what folks in the settlements called a mountain man, one of the few who had traded the safety of towns and company for the freedom of the frontier. To him, the wilderness was not a place to conquer but a living world to understand. He had left the Missouri Territory 2 years earlier, following the fur trails west with a rifle, a knife, and a hunger for open land. Out here, there were no roads, no law, no mercy except what nature offered. Every sunrise was both promise and warning. The Rockies towered around him, blue-gray slopes of stone and snow, cut with dark forests and frozen streams. The air smelled of pine resin and wood smoke. His moccasins crunched softly over the frost as he followed the animal trail deeper into the valley. To the untrained eye, it was just snow and trees. To Boone, it was a story. The size of the hoofprints told him it was a bull elk, heavy and alone. The broken twigs near the trail said it had paused to feed. The depth of the tracks, the direction of the wind, even the faint scent carried through the air, all of it spoke to him in the old language of survival. He crouched by the river, scooping a handful of icy water to his lips. The current murmured under thin sheets of ice, clear and cold enough to burn. Boone scanned the tree line, searching for movement. A raven croaked from above, and for a moment he stood perfectly still, listening. Out here, silence had weight. It could warn of predators or speak of prey nearby. He could tell by the wind's direction that the elk had moved north, toward the foothills. That would mean climbing higher, through snowdrifts waist-deep in places. Still, food and furs waited there, and so he pressed on. Every tool Boone carried had a story. His rifle, a long-barreled flintlock he traded for in St. Louis, was polished smooth from years of use. He loaded it by feel, measuring powder by instinct and tamping the shot with steady hands. His knife had been forged from a broken file, honed sharp enough to shave bark from a tree. The small hatchet tied to his belt was both weapon and lifeline, used for splitting kindling or shaping traps. None of it was fancy, but each piece was essential. A mountain man's tools weren't for show, they were the difference between life and death. By midday, the sun shone weakly through thin clouds, glinting off the snow. Boone paused near a ridge where the wind carried the scent of spruce and distant smoke. Somewhere out there, other trappers might be working, French voyagers or crow hunters running the same lines. But Boone preferred solitude. He trusted the quiet more than company. He had learned early that a man's mind could be his sharpest blade, and silence kept it keen. He found signs of beaver near bend in the river, chew marks on willow trunks, a half-frozen dam built with expert precision. He knelt beside the bank, studying the patterns. Beaver pelts were worth their weight in gold back east, and one good catch could buy flour, powder, and salt for a season. But trapping took patience. He set a steel trap beneath the surface, covering it carefully with mud and reeds so it blended with the riverbed. He moved slow and deliberate, mindful of scent and movement. The wilderness watched everything. As the light began to fade, Boone gathered spruce boughs and built a small lean-to against a fallen tree. His fire started with dry moss and a spark struck from flint. Soon, the glow spread across the clearing, painting the snow in shades of orange and gold. He warmed his hands over the flames and roasted a strip of dried venison from the pouch on his belt. The smell filled the air, rich, smoky, comforting. The night pressed close around him, full of unseen motion. The distant howl of wolves, the crack of ice shifting on the river, the whisper of wind through the pines. Boone sat back, his eyes half closed, and thought about the land that stretched endlessly beyond the firelight. To most, this wilderness was merciless. But to him, it was teacher and home. The mountain men learned from every season, how to build shelter from snow, how to read the sky for storms, how to follow the habits of animals to find water or food. The old trappers used to say, "The land tells you what you need, if you know how to listen." Boone had come to believe it. He ran a hand along the barrel of his rifle, checking the flint once more. Tomorrow, he'd rise before dawn and follow the elk's trail into the high ridges. He would need to move with the wind, keeping low and quiet. Elk could smell a man from hundreds of yards away. One careless step, one snapped twig, and the hunt would be over before it began. The fire crackled softly. Overhead, the stars burned through the night like ice-cold lanterns. Boone thought of the people he had left behind, trading posts, crowded towns, the noise of civilization. None of it had ever felt as real as this place. Out here, every moment mattered. Every choice was final. He pulled his blanket tighter and watched the last embers glow red against the snow. In the distance, the wolves called again, closer this time. Their voices echoed through the valley, long and low, like the pulse of the mountains themselves. Boone smiled faintly. He wasn't afraid. He respected them, hunters, like him, bound to the same rules of life and hunger. Just before sleep claimed him, he thought he heard movement near the river. A soft crunch, faint but distinct, as if something large was stepping through the snow. He rose quietly, gripping his rifle, and peered through the darkness. The firelight flickered, and for an instant, he saw it, the faint outline of an elk moving between the trees, its breath steaming in the cold. Boone's heart quickened. The tracks he'd followed had led him true. But he also knew what those tracks could attract. Predators followed prey, wolves, maybe even a bear stirring too early from its den. Out here, the hunter and the hunted shared the same trails, the same dangers. He waited, still and silent, watching the shadows merge with the trees until they were gone. Then he lowered the rifle and sat back beside the fire. Tomorrow, he would hunt. Tonight, he would listen to the mountains breathe. The wilderness was vast and alive, and it had accepted him for another day. But in its silence, there was always the whisper of challenge. The reminder that survival was never granted, only earned. The wind shifted again, carrying with it the scent of snow and something more, the promise of movement, of danger, of the chase yet to come. Boone closed his eyes, the firelight dancing on his weathered face, and smiled to himself. Somewhere out there in the white stillness, his prey waited. And so did the story of the next dawn.